Everybody, we got a very special guest today. Our first Olympian on the Zoom. Teresa's from Vancouver, from Mission, back when not as many people used to live in Mission, and she's one of the most decorated athletes we've ever had in our country for basketball. So let's all give her a round of applause real quick. I know most of you are muted, but unmute and give her a little round of applause.
Hello.
Gonna embarrass you a little bit. There you go.
Everybody can hear me, right?
All right, Teresa. So let's start from the beginning. Where'd you grow up exactly?
I grew up in Mission, BC, right here, right where I'm still living.
There you go. And your high school?
I went to Hatzick Secondary for 4 years and then graduated from Heritage Park.
And so when did you get started playing basketball?
I would say grade 5, but we didn't have a lot of girls playing at that time, at that age in this town. So really kind of more seriously when I got into grade 8, it was kind of like we didn't have enough girls, so I was playing with boys. It was a mixed team up until grade 8, and then it got more serious.
Fantastic. And then that was at Hatzick?
That was at Hatzick, yeah.
So what type of basketball were you doing? You were just doing high school, or you were doing rec? Like what were you doing in grade 8?
It was high school basketball. So I don't know if all these guys know Bruce, I assume. Bruce coaches.
They probably got a good idea, yeah.
Yeah. So Bruce was my high school coach actually in grade 8. And I don't know if any of them know Mike Miller. Probably not, right? He wouldn't be coaching with
We might have a couple because we got some Walnut Grove people.
Okay, so Mike Miller, Bruce and Mike were both my high school coaches all the way through high school for me.
Oh, fantastic. And then there was like a new school that was built, right? Heritage, that was around your time, correct?
Yeah, I graduated from Heritage, and I was the first grad class through that school. So pretty much, well, I guess everybody on our team transferred to Heritage when that school opened.
Oh, fantastic. And then so can you give it, I mean, it's considered one of the better high school teams that we've ever had in our country. So you want to give us a little rundown of like the type of caliber players you were playing with at the time?
We were kind of, I think my group was kind of the start. Well, definitely was a start because it was the first class through there. But Kat, you would have gone through there. And
I just want to say, sorry, Teresa, that you went through there and then we all said, we need to be more like Teresa. And then this is what happened.
Yeah, okay. So I was the first class through there. And then the Kim Smiths and the Kats and the Sarah Strohs and the Julia Wilsons.
They were all Teresa wannabes.
Yeah, they all came.
Straight up Teresa wannabes.
To be honest, I had some good teammates, but they weren't the most athletic on my team. When the Cats team went through, they had some very good players.
Okay. And so how did you guys do in high school?
We finished 5th in the province, my grade 12 year, I believe.
Okay, that's fun. And then so after you went out, you decided to play university. I would imagine you were pretty highly recruited coming out of high school.
Yeah, fairly highly recruited. I mean, I think going down south when I was coming out of high school was just kind of starting to get more popular, going down to the States and playing at Division I schools and whatnot. So I was recruited by, I don't know, maybe 15, 20 Division I US schools. But I chose to stay in Canada and play at SFU.
Who was the coach that recruited you at Simon?
Allison McNeil.
So I'm sure most of you guys know, but Allison she ended up going and being the national team coach. Back then she was the head coach at SFU. So there's all these people that, you know, us older people, they don't really understand. They're all kind of tied together. So Allison recruited you to Simon. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was awesome. I kind of grew up watching SFU from all throughout high school. And to be honest, there wasn't really any other school that I had my eye on or I wanted to go to. I talked to a bunch of the U.S. coaches or the university coaches from the U.S., but my heart was kind of always set on going to SFU because they were the team that I watched growing up from being a little girl.
And what league did you guys play back then?
NAI. When I first started, my first 3 years at SFU were NAI, and then the last 2 was CIS.
Oh, so you got the extra 2 years out of it, so that's nice.
Yeah.
How'd you guys do your last couple of years at Simon when you went to the CIS?
My fourth year, it was a transition year. That was the first year in CIS, and did we make playoffs? I don't even know if we made playoffs, but after that year, pardon me?
You made playoffs.
Did we make playoffs? Okay, so we made playoffs, but probably lost the first round. I don't even remember, to be honest.
Shot to Calgary.
To Calgary, yeah. And then Bruce came in. Allison left after my fourth year in the CIS, and Bruce ended up being the head coach there for my fifth year, and we won nationals that year.
Oh, fantastic! So his first year, you guys won nationals.
Yeah.
What was your record?
35-0.
There you go. That's a good place to start for sure.
Not to interrupt, but Teresa put on her shoe at the start of the year the date of when the national final was, and that was their goal. Right, Teresa?
Say that again?
You put the date, didn't you, on your shoe? What'd you write on your shoe?
Yeah, I think we did actually. Yeah. Yeah, we won.
That talks about goal setting, which is important to get into with the girls. When you were in high school, what was like your goals? You said earlier that the only school you really thought about seriously was going to Simon. Did you have you ended up playing on the national team for close to 20 years. Was that something you were thinking about when you were in high school? What were you like trying to achieve when you were at that age?
I think just trying to be the best you can be. I mean, I don't know what they have at this level for you guys now, but when I went through, there was an under 13 regional team, under 15 provincial team, under 16, under 17, I think under 19, all provincial teams. And I tried out for the under 13 regional team. And so you be in grade 8, and I actually got cut from that team. And I think that was kind of the driving force that motivated me to want to be better. And from there, I think I just kept on improving and improving every single year.
So that's a key point. So a lot of these kids haven't really been cut from stuff. So it's important to hear that that's a thing that happens to people out there. It was a different time back then. Not everybody got to make every team. So that's something that's important. And showing the perseverance to keep working is huge as well. So now when you got cut, then you go to high school, and then what type of routine are you going through? Like, what are you doing during school? Do you remember any of that stuff? Do you remember like what did you work out in the mornings? Did you work out at night, once a day, twice a day? What was the deal kind of?
Yeah, so my grade 8, 9, and 10 years, I played at the level the age I was in, plus I played on the senior team. So I would wake up at 6 o'clock-ish, 6:30, go to the gym. We would do skill workout, we'd scrimmage, and then after school I would have, so if I was in junior, I would have my junior practice. And then after that, I would have the senior practice. So I was doing like probably too much, to be honest. I ended up with some overuse injuries, but I was doing probably 5-6 hours of basketball a day.
Every day.
Yeah.
No kidding. All right. Well, so that means.
And in grade 11, it was too much, because in grade 11, I ended up having stress fractures.
Right.
So another thing.
Did you play any other sports while you were in high school?
Pardon me?
You play any other sports while you were in high school?
Oh yeah, I played volleyball.
How'd that go?
Good. This is another thing you guys can make fun of Bruce about. When we transferred to Heritage Park, I said to Bruce that I wasn't going unless he coached the volleyball team. So Bruce coached the volleyball team.
There you go. Interesting fact of the day. Bruce Langford, volleyball coach.
He's not on this, is he? No, I don't see him.
He'll get a copy of it later. So this is something that's important, because a lot of people, they talk about, I'm playing multiple sports, therefore I can't do this. So what I've heard from you, and you can tell me if this is right, you did play multiple sports, but you always focused on one, and you got your time in that you needed from basketball. And then in your spare time, you would be like, okay, let me play around with a little volleyball.
Yeah. And I didn't just play volleyball. Like I was actually, up until grade 7, I was pretty good soccer player. And I also played softball. I played volleyball. I played football in high school, which was a little bit of a mess, but we did that too. So yeah, I did everything, all sports.
That's fantastic. And then eventually, when did you make your first national team?
My first year out of high school.
So
So
first year out of high school.
First year after university, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, first year out of university or first year in university?
First year, like after my first university year.
Okay, fantastic. So you're like 18 then, and you make the national team.
Yeah.
That's got to be a pretty big jump for you, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was, because I was actually one of very few of the younger ones, and I was 18, and I was playing with, most of the team was quite older, like 35-ish. So it was different. Socially, it was very different, but an awesome experience.
So right off the top, you got in there. Did you get any opportunity to get in games? What was the experience like at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get a lot of playing time, not like I would have, once a lot of those players retired, but I did definitely get some playing time. And we actually had Pan Ams in Winnipeg in 1999, and there was some of the players were injured and whatever, and I got quite a few minutes, and to play in Canada, it was pretty cool.
That's very cool. And then so you play on the team, and then you make the Olympics. Talk about that a little bit. Give us the experience of playing in the Olympics.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing more amazing than walking into an opening ceremonies and you have Canada written across your chest, and you're with 250 to 300 other Canadians, and the world is watching you, right? Like, it's the biggest international sporting stage you can possibly be on. So
Totally.
it's pretty amazing. To be honest, like the basketball I remember, but I don't remember it as much as the connections with my teammates and like the moments of walking into opening ceremonies and the closing ceremonies and those kind of things.
Around then, the WNBA was just about to get started, correct?
Yes, yeah.
And were there players on your national team that were in the WNBA?
There was Tammy Sutton Brown, so she was a year or two older than me, and another girl from Ontario. Yeah,
so I mean that shows you girls like the big difference that we've had in skill throughout the country over the years, and it's kind of started back then with this group. They made the Olympics, and kids started falling in love with basketball back then in our country, and now we've got a whole bunch of kids in the WNBA that are on our national team. And what stood the test of time was Teresa, you kept playing. So how long did you end up playing total on the national team?
I was there for 15 years. Yeah, with the national team.
So 15 years. So every year for 15 years, you're going out, and you made it one of your first years, correct, playing on the national team?
I got cut my first year, so I went out. I was invited to the tryouts my grade 12 year, and rumor has it I was cut because I was in grade 12. And you're still in high school and you're graduating and whatever. But I mean, who knows, right? And then the next year I made it.
All right, and then you guys went to the Olympics, and then you had to wait a little while before you got to make it back again. And then what was it like getting to go back there one more time?
It was awesome. I went to the Olympics in 2000, and then we didn't qualify. So I don't know if you guys know, Olympics are every 4 years. So we missed 2004, we missed 2008, and then we qualified in 2012. And the way we qualified was like super cool. So there's 12 teams that went to the Olympics, and we got the 12th berth, and we actually were playing in Turkey on Canada Day. And we ended up beating Japan on Canada Day to qualify and get that last berth to the Olympics.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. So did you end up playing pro after you played high school? Or after university? Did you end up playing pro anywhere?
I did. I went overseas and played in Europe. I played in Italy and in Spain and in Austria.
Okay. And then what was that experience like, getting out of your comfort zone and going to Europe?
Yeah, it was definitely out of my comfort zone. I don't know if these guys know, but like you have some horror stories about playing in Europe, and you have some amazing stories about playing in Europe or overseas or wherever you're playing. And mine were probably more on the horror story side. So I played a few years over there, and I had some good experience. When I was in Italy, it wasn't so good. When I was in Spain, I was playing with Michelle Hendry, who also is an SFU alumni. I was with her in Spain, so it was good because I was playing with another Canadian. And then when I was in Austria, it was another kind of bad experience. So I ended up coming back to Canada and just training on my own. Yeah,
for sure. You've got one of the things we talk with coaches and with kids and stuff is support system. And I happen to know your husband, and I really like him. I think he's a great guy. Talk about what it was like, having, like for the girls on the TV, one of the things when you watch Teresa on TV was you see Marchie, your husband, like with the Canada flag. He was really supportive back then. And I think a lot of people don't have that in a spouse. So I just, we'll give him a little bit of play real quick. What was it like having a really supportive spouse while you were playing?
It was, you couldn't do it if you didn't have somebody that was supporting you. I mean, I lived a life for many years that as an athlete, I think you kind of almost have to be a little bit selfish, because it's kind of like, especially once you reach the professional level and national team level, you have to focus on yourself. It's all about you and your training. And like I had a job. So I woke up at 3:30 every morning, and I would go, my parents owned a bread franchise. So I would go and shelve bread. I was finished work at about like 9, and I would go and train for a few hours till about lunch. And then I would go back to the stores and stock the shelves, redo the bread. And then I would go back to the gym or back to wherever it was, and I would train for another few hours. And then I would come home for dinner. And I mean, he had a job too. Marchie had a job too. So he was busy, but it was like that lifestyle for years and years and years and years. And if you don't have somebody that's supportive in what you do and encouraging you and helping you and understanding what your goals and what you're trying to achieve, it's probably pretty difficult.
Yeah, for sure. No kidding. I mean, I'm just recently married, and I'm a fan of my wife. I think she's pretty cool. So I got the same thing. So that's, basketball's serious, man. It takes a lot of time. So it's cool to have that in a great relationship. So now tell us this.
If I can add to that, when we qualified for the Olympics on Canada Day, Marchie he came to Turkey and watched, and he was actually in tears. And I was like, why are you crying? Like, he was happier for me than I was.
Yeah. And you just recently had a kid. Tell us about that.
Well, I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and living this quarantine life with 2 little kids can be very interesting.
Boys, girls, what do we got?
I don't know if you can hear one of them upstairs right now.
Yeah. Boys, girls, what do we got?
2 little boys. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. We'll have to start a VK for boys soon then.
I know, right? Yeah, I know. And
okay,
I'm not having to try to have a girl. I've been told, like, oh, you got to have another one to have a girl. Sorry, I'm done.
All right, last piece. If you could give these kids, one bit of advice for their journey. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on, but like, what would your if you could give them just one or 2 things, what would that be?
I think for me, I didn't really, I know you guys probably have more opportunity now and access to the physical part of training, but for me, I didn't really start lifting weights and doing the cardio. I just love to play. Like, I could scrimmage all day, and I just had a passion for the game, and I just always wanted to play. But I think in hindsight now, if I could look back and tell my younger self, you need to physically take care of your body, whether that's, doing the physio, doing the lifting, doing the conditioning and all that kind of stuff. It makes the world of a difference when you get to higher levels. Yeah, just because I had a lot of overuse injuries. So if I could go back, I would change that about it.
Right. And if you get stronger, a lot of those things can sometimes go away. And, one of the things, we've had Kat, obviously, on our coaching staff, and she's been harping on the kids to make sure they're ready to go when we get going. We got another coach, Nikki. She's one of the best conditioned athletes, probably in the Canada West, for sure, on her team. And the advantage that gives you as an athlete when you're conditioned, it makes everything easier. So, we just did 45 minutes with the kids. They were skipping rope. They're doing body weight exercises. This stuff's important. And so Teresa just reiterated the work that you guys are doing is important. And we want to say thank you very much for coming out for our interview. It's fantastic to have you out, and we appreciate you coming out. And one day we'd love to have you in the gym with us if we ever do get out of the house.
Awesome. Hopefully one day it's going to happen soon, I hope.
Yeah, no kidding. Thanks, guys.